Down 28-3 that the Patriots would come back and beat the Falcons that year. It's not wrong. Hello and welcome back to I75 Live, Episode 5. As promised, we have our guest, Mr. Christian Vanover, in the building today.
Very first guest.
Exciting Vanny, you can introduce yourself.
Cool. It's an honor to be here. Name's Christian Vanover. A lot of people call me Vanny as well. Met Dawson in college. We were roommates. And yeah, just a huge college football fan, specifically all things Kentucky sports.
He bleeds blue.
Yes, sir. You guys played lacrosse together, right? Like all 4 years?
Played lacrosse all 4 years at Cumberland's together.
Lived with each other for what, 3 years?
3 years.
1 year in the dorms, a couple years in an apartment.
So a bit too long, but
yeah. But anyway, as you guys know, some of our social media, we were at Eastlake over on Sunday, yesterday.
Yep. Yeah.
Getting to see, I know Vanny, he's got his argument to really hoping that Scotty was going to win, kind of how they do their playoffs. But it was really fun to see Scotty take it home after the year that he had this year.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you guys, like, how was the experience overall? Because I've never been to a golf tournament, like anything like that. So, like, what'd you like? What'd you wish was, different?
One thing that I love about what the Tour Championship does compared to any other tournament is the field is only 30 guys.
Yeah.
So, like, you can get there late in the day and see basically everything you need to.
Hell yeah.
When I went to the Memorial earlier in the summer, I mean, you were getting up, driving there, getting there at 6:30, watching the guys tee off, and then you're not leaving until 6. It's a 12-hour day. You're out in the sun all day, middle of summer. So that's one thing that I always love about what Eastlake has, what the Tour Championship does.
Being the third year we've gone back too, it also.
So y'all have done this before. This is our same tournament.
This is our third year, same place. So I would say too, it's a lot easier to kind of navigate, know where you're going, know best places to stand, to see multiple holes and
100%.
Stuff like that. But yes, this year too, they also did a ton of renovation. Where I know you said that they at least added or took away something from every single hole.
Yes.
Whether that was a bunker, whether that was a tree, every single hole.
That's
got touched.
Weird.
Yep. Yeah. Every single hole was touched. They changed some greens and made them more square shapes back to the original architect that designed the course.
Okay.
And pretty cool.
Yeah. So on top of that, like we mentioned, Scotty winning.
He shined again.
Shot a 67, 25 million.
25 million, dude.
30 under, 30 under on the round. I love Scotty, and the year that he's had with the Masters, with the Olympic gold.
He's
getting arrested.
Free Scotty.
Free Scotty's up on the wall. I think it just capped off an amazing year of golf to where yesterday when they were doing the trophy ceremony, he said what? The last person to do this was Tiger of winning 7.
Winning 7 and everything else. And then one thing that he did, he actually broke a Tiger Woods record for.
Oh, really?
He shot on average a 68 this year as a
whole.
Which is better than it's the lowest in PGA Tour history.
It just shows how dominant he is. Yeah. Because, I mean, there were other great golfers there, too, this weekend. Like, Scheffler was there. He shot, -19, and then Matsuyama was also there.
Yep.
Shot -16.
Speaking of that, though, what you just said, do you think because of LIV and some of the big guys are over at LIV, do you think that puts an asterisk by this year that Scotty has had?
That's true. I forgot.
And saying, hey, if you throw some of these other big guys in here,
does he still win?
Does he still do what he did?
I don't think he does exactly what he did, but it's still hard to argue because he did have a 68, which has never been a 68 average for every single tournament or every single round he played this year, which still is better than anything, anybody's ever done, considering Tiger Woods in in that equation. So there's sometimes whenever I'm like, man, like I wish Rombo was back out there.
It kind of sucks that they split.
I wish Dustin Johnson was back out there. You know, Cam Smith.
Those are names that even I recognize.
Guys. Yeah,
so
it's completely separated the tour, but yeah, but also too, I think about in golf, the main 4 things that people care about are the 4 majors.
Yeah.
So, you care about the Masters, you care about the PGA, you care about the US Open.
And all those guys are there.
And all those guys are there. And we still, as a whole, the PGA Tour was able to dominate more than LIV did.
Do you think it'd be cool if they did it kind of like how pro sports has conferences where like AFC, NFC? What if it was PGA versus LIV? And then you just, they played up against each other on like teams.
Yeah, I wish, but I mean, they're in discussions of doing some kind of combining of
I feel
both
like they
leagues.
need to.
But it's a mess. I mean, Tiger Woods is involved. Rory McIlroy is involved. It's a whole thing. I think maybe there's something that could happen like that in the future. I don't know if it looks like kind of 2 leagues versus each other.
Yeah.
I mean, the last time we saw something like that happen was like the XFL and the NFL. Like, and then the XFL is not going to survive. But,
that's true.
But yeah, so I mean, hopefully we figure out some type of way to get the best players in the world playing together again. That's the goal.
I mean, that's what most people want to see.
That's
what I would want to see as like a fan of the sport. Yeah, and that's what would sell tickets.
Well, and it's like we kind of talk about, exactly. You want, when you go to a play or when you go to a tournament as a fan, you want to see the best. Yeah. So I just really, because I love Scotty and I love what he's done, I just hope that it doesn't turn into like,
there's a bunch of asterisks.
There's or like when baseball was just the steroid era of but I hope that's not what it is, because like I said, Scotty was awesome, the gold medal was awesome, the Masters was awesome, getting arrested was awesome. So anyway, but yes, East Lake was awesome. It was so much fun. I think it was a blast to go back for the 3rd year in a row. Know what you're doing, and I enjoyed it, and I know we'll probably do that for a long time. We've kind of made a trip out of it.
You guys got to see Scheffler finish it off, right? You were there for
we were there for the fun. Yeah, we were right there. And the whole year as a recap to get to say, hey, we were there when he finished the PGA Championship after the year he had. I think is something that is really cool to say. So
I know Vanny had something about how if they had done their playoff different,
the aggregate.
Scheffler actually wouldn't have won.
Yeah, so and this kind of gets into the FedEx Cup playoffs as a whole. The 3 tournaments they have. They have the St. Jude, which was in Memphis this last year. They have the BMW, which was out in Colorado, and then the Tour Championship here in Atlanta. It is missing something. A couple years ago, they used to have the it was called the World Golf Championships, and it was a match play March Madness style tournament. So
that's cool.
The 1 seed played against the last seed, and then you worked your way all the way down. And that is something that I wish that they'd figure out how to go back to. We need more team golf. We need more match play. We need more things like that, because that gets the fans involved. Like, nothing is going to be more exciting than Scotty Scheffler going up in the Final 4 against Rory McIlroy in a match play.
I agree.
That, in my opinion, is what, when Americans think of playoffs, that is essentially a playoff.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
A tournament.
Yeah.
And but the aggregate scoring would actually have Sam Burns, which is Scotty Scheffler's best friend.
Really?
Yeah, they're bros. They stay almost everywhere together. They fly in their private jets together. Sam Burns, he's a big guy he's from Louisiana, so he likes to hunt and get out and fish and everything. But he would have won the total FedEx Cup playoffs if you counted all 3 tournaments together.
He would have won by like 1.
He would have won by 1, and then Schauffele and Adam Scott would have finished T2, and then that puts Scheffler in 4th place.
That's wild.
After all that. So, but whenever you have Scotty Scheffler starting with the 10 strokes because of the year that he was able to have, and he's first in the FedEx Cup points, he was able to come out on top because he started with 10 strokes. So
why did they stop doing that?
Stop doing the World Golf Championships?
Yeah.
I don't know. The World Golf Championships wasn't a PGA Tour sanctioned thing. It was the WGCs were kind of like by themselves.
Yeah.
And then basically something with the official World Golf rankings and stuff like that, and then also take into consideration that half the guys are on live now, and
Yeah, that's true.
They just kind of stopped doing it. So I would love to see them bring something back because right now, I mean, you have the Zurich, which is a really small tournament. It's in Louisiana, where you get like a teammate.
Yeah.
So like for example, last year who won it was Rory McIlroy and Shane Lowry. They're both from Ireland, and it's really cool. But you got to figure out some kind of way to add match play, add more team golf. Do something.
Well, and you're rewarding the players who play good the whole year.
The whole year. It's a
too.
season-long race to the FedEx Cup.
Yeah. And say Scotty came out, had a terrible week.
Yep.
It kind of just throws away everything he did.
Exactly.
And he's not the champion, but he was literally leading since like the first week of the whole season.
Yeah.
So that is why I think they need to do some tweaking to it for that reason right there. Because we've seen it the past couple years to the guy who's leading the whole year, there's a good chance
he doesn't win. Yeah.
And to me, that's...
And the reason is in the first two events, so the BMW and the St. Jude, if you win either of those two events, you get 2,000 FedEx Cup points. For a win like the Masters, for a win in the majors, you only get 750.
Why is it so different?
So because they're saying it's the FedEx Cup, and it's like the playoffs. So essentially, like
weird.
Keegan Bradley, Ryder Cup captain, he got announced as a Ryder Cup captain. Love Keegan, super awesome guy, but he was ranked 50th going into, I think it was the St. Jude. He wins the St. Jude or wins the BMW, one of those two, I don't remember. And he went from 50th to 5th in the rankings.
And to recap, he made what, like $62 million
how much did he make
on the
this year?
It's like it was over 62 million, assuming that each of these rounds that he plays is 4.5 hours long. That's 3.3 million per tournament, 830,000 per round, $12,000 per shot, and $3,000 per minute while he's on the course.
Yeah, that's wild.
I wish.
All to do that playing a game.
And I mean, and the thing is, he's just a great guy. I mean, Scheffler, I think he still drives like his old car from like college.
What a guy. Speaking of games, though, let's move on to college football 25 because I know you're a huge fan of that game.
Yeah.
I personally don't have it, but I know both of y'all have played it.
I haven't played it a ton, but I know out of, like I said last episode, he has played it the most out of anyone I know. And to be fair, though, when we were in college, you had your old PlayStation 3 playing NCAA 14. Yep. So what has that been to you to not only get a new game, but also the game in general? Is it fun? Is it worth it? Do you think it's going to last? Or is it just going to turn into Madden to where they're selling Ultimate Team every year? Where's your head on that?
I think that they nailed almost everything. The game, the game reminds me of like whenever I was like a kid, all the way up until obviously I was in college like 2 years ago.
That's exactly what they wanted to.
Playing 2014 and just, that's all I did. Just on a dynasty, I'm recruiting, I'm, smacking teams. I have a team builder, I'm doing everything the exact same. So I think that they got almost everything correct. Whenever you talk about the game as a whole.
Have you done the Ultimate Challenge, though, and started a dynasty with Kennesaw State?
I have not done the Ultimate Challenge yet. My thought process is obviously on 2014, like I played on Heisman difficulty, it became really easy. Like I'd start to beat teams by like 100 points.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to, because I knew that I couldn't go below Heisman. I had to be on Heisman difficulty, but I knew if I started with a team like Kennesaw State or like App State, that's the one I really want to do, that if it was really hard, I'd get really frustrated and then I wouldn't play anymore. It's like I've waited 11 years for this.
Sick of this
I'm
game.
going to figure out how to do it. So we started a dynasty with UK.
Of course.
Barry Brown, back-to-back Heisman winner for his junior year and senior year campaigns. And we won a natty his senior year. So, it's a really good game. And then regarding like the Ultimate Team stuff, I think the Ultimate Team is cool, but I definitely have seen what they've been pouring out Ultimate Team wise in Madden.
Oh yeah,
and
that's pretty much that entire game.
And that's why I stopped playing Madden.
College football Ultimate Team probably has like 50% less than what they have in Madden.
Okay,
and so I do really
like that. So they do focus more on like the dynasty.
On the dynasty, they've already done a couple key updates to change some things.
See, that's nice to see.
the biggest thing for me is I wish that there was high school in Road to Glory. You can't play in high school anymore. You just start as a 5, 4, 3, or 2 star. But I made a corner.
That's cool.
And I was on Heisman. I won corner of the year my senior year. But the teams that I was on University of Cincinnati, Kentucky, and Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
We never won a bowl game. We never went to a bowl game on any team. I never got over 5 wins.
That's funny.
So yeah, I have 145 hours on the game.
I will. Yeah, you told me that the other day, and I was like, yeah. Now, and that's coming from you got a full-time job, you got a lot of stuff you're doing, and you got a wife.
got a wife. I'm
so
running around.
So
he still finds time for his hobbies.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and I see the hype surrounding that game because, I think I now understand when people say, no, I'm a college guy or no, I'm an NFL guy. I can see both sides of it too, where I could see, I understand why you would like college football better. The atmosphere, I think, is better when it comes to fans.
Seems like a faster game too.
Faster, well, more
Somebody said that
mistakes,
it's like
so leading to more points, less, in the NFL, there's way, everyone's faster. I think everyone is reading stuff faster when it comes to just the game. So I see why people like college football more than they do the NFL. What I find hard, following college football is there's so many damn teams.
Yeah.
And there's so many players.
And there's a lot of turnover between players. Year
Yes.
after year.
It's now with the transfer portal and everything like that, to where with the NFL,
That's
I
a whole
find
different
it.
story.
I find it a little bit easier to truly know and follow the NFL than college.
Yeah. Right.
Now, like we said, with the transfer portal and everything like that. So to me, that's why I always am like, I'm an NFL guy. I enjoy it way more. I think fantasy football is way, easier to follow. I know they do it for college, but that's with all the players, it can get really hard. The pick'ems that we're doing this year, I think is fun too.
Yeah.
But it's just, that's kind of where I sit at, to where NFL for me is just more up my alley of being able to really know what I'm talking about than when it comes to college.
Yeah,
so
I would agree.
And I know you have taken a lot of time to invest yourself because you being SEC, you care about that a lot.
Yep, I care about the SEC a lot.
Now, throwing the SEC in there, what do you think about the changes the SEC made conference-wise and adding a couple teams?
I think with the college football playoff too, like as a UK fan, it's tough because we were in the Eastern Conference and the SEC
just
last
got
year.
tougher.
It was not. The SEC East was a lot worse of a division compared to the SEC West. So now there's no more divisions. You obviously add the best rivalry in college football, being Texas and Oklahoma.
Yeah.
That's the Red River rivalry. That's what it is. So I'm kind of excited. I'm also interested to see how it works out. One thing I am really nervous about as a middle of the pack SEC team being Kentucky, I'm worried that one day they'll switch to 9 conference games. And I can see in other conferences because other conferences aren't as deep as the SEC.
Yeah.
But I do not understand how anybody, that's a gauntlet to go through 9 SEC games.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds like
we
Florida's
would probably
schedule
have
right
to
now,
sacrifice
honestly.
the Louisville rivalry if we did that.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't get to play Louisville anymore. And that's one of my favorite games.
Well, and that brings up another topic of something that we've talked about for the last couple of years when it comes to college football is with everything going on with the money side of things and some of these teams moving to the big, like USC and the Big Ten makes no sense, but that's just what it is. I think it's eventually going to turn into just either a big powerhouse one big Power 5 football, or it's going to be East and West, 2 conferences split right down the middle. And I don't know if that's going to be good for college football, if that's ultimately what it will come to.
Right. I think definitely the 2 front runners are the SEC and the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And I could see them kind of being in their own tier by themselves. When you get my playoff
ACC,
picks
Pac-12.
later, I think I only have automatic bids for the ACC, the Big 12, and the group of 6, and then everybody else is an SEC and Big Ten team.
Yeah,
that's how it is. Yeah. They're the best teams.
I will say though too, the 12 team playoff I think does, and we kind of touched on it with Florida State. It does make it to where
Your season's not over.
Your
after
season's
week one.
not over after week 1 or
Yeah.
after a loss like it has been. And it gives it, some of these smaller teams to something to play for. Like, hey, let's make it to the playoffs. Like, we can do it.
Yep.
We
Yeah.
played a good schedule. We beat some good teams. And we're not going to get screwed over at the end of the year because our name isn't Georgia, Alabama, or an SEC or Big Ten school. So I think that is also great. And, and for the you're not going to have the top dogs teams just load up on all these transfers. And those are the only teams that they want to go play for. Right. You're going to get, I think, more competitive teams to have faith and have hope to get in.
That brings up another point, talking about how smaller teams now have, a chance to make the playoffs. Do y'all think that, I personally think that college football could do a lot more with a salary cap for those smaller teams so that teams like Oregon, who this past offseason just got granted unlimited NIL budget just because the founder of Nike went there and he sponsors them. So if there's a salary cap in place to stop those powerhouse teams from just loading up and paying all the 5 stars so that they have to be methodical about it and pick certain positions where they want those superstars and because they can only afford that much. Not because they don't have enough money, but just because that's their limit. And that would, like I said, it would, teams like Kentucky or even smaller teams like Boise State would have a much better chance even like just playing against them. But yeah, what are y'all's thoughts on that?
I think then it becomes, if you do that, number one, it has to be ruled. It has to be a ruling by the Supreme Court.
Yeah, you were mentioning that because we talked about this on Friday.
It has to be a ruling from them, or then it becomes antitrust, and it becomes a whole big thing. Number two, if you do that, great. It looks great on paper, but go and watch the SMU documentary, ESPN 30 for 30. Go and watch, 1980s, 1990s, even early 2000s in the SEC. Go and watch and see what some of those boosters would do to, get a kid a car, and now he's coming to this school.
It's just going to increase.
There's still going to be, backstabbing and lying and stealing.
So you're saying even if there's a salary cap in place, teams would still find a way around it like they
not
did
necessarily
before
teams,
NIL was legal?
But boosters.
Okay.
Like, Nick Saban probably didn't even know what half the stuff was going on at one point. And he never got in trouble or anything. I'm not calling him out, but there's boosters that go around and they'll show up at a McDonald's with $3,000 in a bag and say here, or maybe even more.
I think too. My way of I see it maybe being fixed is now that all these players are getting paid and half of them have agents and all this crap. I look at it as okay, if I'm in Alabama, if I'm in Oregon, if I'm one of these teams, I look at that player and go, okay, that's cool that you have received all this money and, I get that. That's where it is now. But if you want to see that money, you need to sign a contract to Georgia saying, I will be here for at least 3 years.
And if you break that
contract, you don't see any of that money.
That would make sense. Or at least money that's left over, like you get it as the years go on.
Just the way that it's kind of set up, and and even my argument too is these full ride scholarships that you get, that these players are getting, it is nothing compared to what the money to the money that they are receiving from all the outside sponsorships, boosters, whatever you call it. So to them, the scholarship at Georgia is nothing because they know they can go get that same money at Oregon. They can go get that same money at Ohio State. So there needs to be something within that contract.
There needs to be more regulation.
You have to do this or you don't see any of it because it's just it's the wild, wild west right now when it comes to people transferring and not getting. I mean, there used to be some punishment like, okay, you have to sit out, or if you transfer in conference, you have to sit out a year. Now you can go play for 4 different teams all 4 years if you really wanted to. And that to me is not right. There's no loyalty in that. There's no commitment to my word of, yes, I'm committing to your school. And that is something that we have lost the past couple years to where if you start making some of these guys sign contracts, you're committing your time to that school. Because when you chose a school, that's either the benefit or the punishment you get for the school you chose.
They're kind of like, it's kind of being done away with like the program part of like, Saban always said, we run a program here and we're here to make men out of our players and like get them pro ready. Now it's just full-blown free
Well,
agency.
and you saw that his last couple years, he couldn't do it because he didn't have players staying 3-4 years to develop them. And then, so,
There's a lot of guys that just are getting fed up.
Yeah.
Like, there was that baseball coach from Coastal Carolina that came out and talked about it after the College World Series, and he was just done with it. Like, even at the baseball level. Like, we're talking the third biggest sport
just college all
in
around.
college. I mean, I mean, it's just...
Yeah.
But moving to, I guess, just college football as a whole, because this was the first weekend. I know week 0 was last weekend. There was only one game. What was y'all's favorite game from the weekend? Because I thought there were a ton of good ones.
There were a ton. I think my favorite one was the one that we just watched.
Last night?
The LSU.
God, that game was good.
It was great. There were
God.
some great plays. But I go back to LSU and that coaching staff. They
played
whole time,
conservative
They
at the
played
end,
conservative,
very conservative.
and they played not to lose. And every time we see that happen, they always end up losing. And I remember in our group chat, I texted everyone. I said, they're playing to lose. They're playing not to lose right now. They're running the ball. They're trying to hold on to the lead they have. And what happened? LSU got the ball,
balls,
marched down the field. You play to win the game, and that was their problem. And I've always said it. Play to win the freaking game. And if you have coaches who are just going to play conservative and, no, we've got a 3-point lead, we're just going to try and run out the clock, it happens every time. They end up losing. But it was a great game. There were a lot of great plays.
Those two catches with Kyron Hudson, that first
one was crazy.
Wild.
And then the second one to put him in a field goal range.
The second one was arguably more impressive because he caught that one-handed and then gets clocked right in the mouth.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
There were a lot of great games, though. I know Oregon was a little surprising. They won, 17?
Yeah, Oregon won 24-14 against Idaho, who is now...
Watch out.
In college football 14.
Watch out, Idaho.
In that video game, they were an FBS team, but now they've actually dropped down. They're an FCS team now.
Really?
24-14
to the team that everyone was saying
FCS Northwest.
Notre Dame and Texas A&M was another good one. That was really for the most part was a defensive game. It kind of lit up later on. The final few drives were really exciting.
Yeah.
But obviously Notre Dame comes away with a W. But more on Notre Dame. So every year we hear, Notre Dame fans complaining about how they get just left out of the college football playoff. But in my opinion, that's for a reason. You guys are not in a conference.
Right.
You have an easier schedule than most that play in the SEC, even the ACC, Big Ten.
Yep.
Yeah. And so when you're not playing on championship weekend, how can you expect to be one of those teams that gets, put in there? And especially now, with 5 spots are guaranteed to the conference winners for the new playoff bracket.
You got your 4 for your Power 4.
Yeah.
And then you've got your 1 for your for your P6.
On that, do you think it's time for Notre Dame to finally join a conference? It would solve a lot of their fans' issues apparently.
Yeah, it definitely would. They've always been kind of anti-conference, and I think now with those at-large bids that you have, the playoffs only going to get bigger. They're going to go to 16 here in the next couple of years.
Oh yeah.
It's going to turn into Notre Dame
Madness.
does find a way where they can still come in, and make it. I mean, I have them in my bracket.
And the rest of their schedule too is just
nothing.
I mean,
they get it over with week 1 and then they coast.
They think
the rest
that
of the
they're
season.
and the better USC or the better who'd they play again? I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank.
they played A&M.
The better A&M plays. If they go in and beat some of these SEC teams, it makes Notre Dame look better at the end of the year. So yeah, I think they should. But for that reason, what we just said, why would they when they can go beat one or two teams and then get in at the end of the year and who knows what's going to happen at the end of the year, injuries and everything, roll the ball out there and play. So
last game that I wanted to touch on, it wasn't really close, but Florida versus Miami, dude. That was just more to come for that.
I picked Florida. I know you picked Florida.
I did too.
And I had heard a lot of stuff with Miami, but I've heard it the last 3 years since that guy got there, since Cristobal got there.
It's finally his time.
Now they look scary.
Quarterback looks very good. He's got a lot of guys to throw the ball to.
They look scary. And in a weak all-coast conference, the ACC.
All-coast conference.
I think Miami. I think they could. I mean, I very well think that they're my favorite now.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just. And Florida, maybe Florida's bad, but I don't know. Miami looked really good.
Yeah.
Florida just has it rough. Have you guys seen Florida's schedule this year?
Every SEC team almost.
But Florida.
But Florida specifically.
8 ranked opponents.
Yeah, that's
8 ranked opponents, and 6 of them are in the top 15 right now.
Yep.
obviously they got to play Tennessee, they play Georgia, they got to play Ole Miss, but then they also play FSU at the end, and it's just, oh my God, I feel so
it goes
bad
back to our
for them.
argument though with Notre Dame and how they do it, and then you take a team like Florida to where
they got to run a gauntlet
they have
this
to
year,
literally,
and half of it's
you
'cause
have
of
to
their
win.
conference.
I mean, you're gonna have to win pretty much way more than 90% of those games to even have a chance at the end of the year over someone like Notre Dame, to where they beat one good team and now kind of get the cakewalk through the season and then get in at the end of the year.
Well, let's give Vanny a little bit because his team. Actually, I liked a lot of what I saw from Kentucky's offense
When the game finally started.
Once
it started.
Need to see it against SEC teams still, but they looked promising.
Yeah, they looked very promising. I mean, I've been waiting for that game. It feels like all year.
Yeah.
Just to watch Brock Vandagriff, see what he has left in the tank after his years at Georgia. But with Bush Hamden, our new offensive coordinator, he kept me on my toes. And typically, like in years past, the offensive coordinators at Kentucky didn't do that. We were running the clock down.
Well, and you guys ran a very pro-style offense.
Very pro-style, very, long.
It looked really West Coast.
Slow,
like it was a lot of,
but there were a lot of jet
sideline to
sweeps.
sideline. Yeah.
I was seeing, quarterback rollouts, running around, quick, hand the ball off. It was ready to go offense, and I really liked it. I mean, I'm excited to see what they can do. Obviously, now you've got South Carolina, then you've got Ohio, then you've got Ohio, you got Georgia. So you got two big games coming up.
That Georgia game.
That Georgia game. I mean,
Georgia. If anyone had any doubts,
that's
on
when
Georgia,
you.
it
That's
happens
when you
every
figure
year.
out, what your identity is going to be, and the defense. The defense, I mean, hands down was.
You guys look good.
That was scary.
Like if that game finished, when did it get cut short? In the third?
It got cut late, like early in the third quarter, and it was 31-0.
Yeah, I was gonna say it probably ends up being like 50 to like 7.
And if anything, I could hear it now. Well, who'd they play? They didn't play anyone. Who cares?
Right?
But it's a confidence booster.
That's what I was saying. They need to show it against SEC
to a brand
teams,
new
but-
quarterback, to a brand new play caller. It was a game to build your confidence and get some okay, what we're doing worked. That's cool. We could build on it. Go and try and like we said, play the SEC teams that way. I will say, I want to talk about Clemson for a second.
Ooh.
I think Dabo.
I saw a crazy stat about him over the weekend.
He's standing on business when it comes to the whole not going into the portal and not all this.
Might be biting him in the
But
though.
I mean, if he does this for a couple more years, maybe this year, and if it doesn't work out, he could be shipped out of there.
He could be.
So I think I was telling you this when we were watching the games that first night. Dabo, since like 2018 when the transfer portal started, the number is 0. The amount of players that he's started that have been transfers to start the year.
Yeah.
Nobody has started under him. And that's just wild. And he might be the only coach that's doing that.
Well, here's a stat.
He's standing on business,
Yeah.
but where's it getting you?
Yeah.
Here's a stat. So there's 4 teams in the FBS that did not take a transfer player from last year, and it's Clemson and the 3 academies.
Yeah,
So
and that's
Navy, Army, and Air Force.
and that's ridiculous.
And they can't
That's
take
so funny.
transfers.
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
you can't
wow.
just start. I was just like,
And
wow.
that's ridiculous when
So-
you have Clemson, one of the few teams who have won a national
That's a
championship.
premier team, too.
I mean, yes, and you're in a very good location. You're in a well-known,
Oh, absolutely.
everyone knows who Clemson is. If you were able to do what Georgia does, what Oregon does, I think you can build and take advantage of what the transfer portal is nowadays. And the fact that he's not, I could very well see him being out of there in the next couple of years.
It's
So-
spooky,
wouldn't
and they've got the
surprise me.
boosters to do it.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
But arguably the top 2 QBs in college football. We had this discussion.
Oh, we did, yeah.
Who would you guys rather have? I've got an interesting argument for it. I know y'all do as well. Shedeur Sanders or Carson Beck? Let's say to start off in the NFL. We've seen them. Who do you think is more
Like if I had the first
pro-style,
overall pick, I needed a quarterback next year.
Your only 2 options are Beck and Sanders. Who are you taking?
I think, oh man, I think I would go. I don't think you can go wrong with either 2.
Yeah.
I think they definitely have 2 different play styles.
Yeah.
I think
would agree.
Shedeur is very gunslinger. I'm gonna try and make as many highlight reel awesome plays as I can, and I'm just gonna live with it. Where Beck can be more of a game manager. I'm gonna protect the ball. I'm going to make the right decision. I'm going to,
Kind of like a JJ
yeah,
McCarthy.
yeah. And then everyone kind of gives him crap because it's, oh, well, you've had the Georgia defense and you've had the Georgia run game, so you haven't had
not his fault.
Not his
He's
fault.
playing within the
But he is
system.
playing within, not making mistakes, keeping his team in games, giving them the best chance to win. And I know Shedeur on Colorado, like last year, I saw a stat to where he had the worst pass rush when it came to rushing the quarterback on hits on him. His O-line was graded last, and then like the whole entire, so I think when you look at that, I would rather, I think, have Carson Beck for those reasons, and he also doesn't bring the drama of what Deion Sanders will bring, because I've heard him in interviews say, oh yeah, well, we're pulling an Eli Manning. If the team that drafts him, if I don't like him, we're not doing it.
Yeah.
I don't care. So for that, because I would just stay away from the drama, me personally.
Okay.
Now, I know other people might say, well, I don't care. I want a guy who's not going to be scared to make plays like a Josh Allen. I get that. Me personally, I would rather have a guy like Carson Beck. So.
Okay. No, what about you?
And then I'm kind of in the same boat. A lot of things that he just said, but I mean, the biggest thing comes down to me is I look at what a quarterback is, and I think a quarterback is a true leader, a true game manager. It's the most important player on the field. I personally, football that I've watched, football that I've, enjoyed over the years, is a quarterback that slows the game down, makes smart decisions, and just picks you apart mentally and physically, and picks your DBs left and right. That's why, I'd have to roll with Carson Beck, because I don't do the drama. I don't do the, the whole look at my wrist, everything else. Like I don't need that.
And it's cool, and I'm not hating on it. Like, you've earned that. You've earned,
absolutely.
But
what
it's
has
just
he earned though? They went 4-8.
This is true.
You can't tell me that you've earned that. Like, Georgia is the best team in the country. I'm rocking with that quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm rocking with that scheme. That
Even the excuse that
he's
people
a known
will say,
winner.
no, they've had a number one defense.
He's
They've
a
had
known
this.
winner.
Okay.
They said that about Brady too.
Yeah,
That's fair.
Well, they say that about every good quarterback. It seems like
They say it about Mahomes. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'm on the other side. I would take Shedeur, but for the reason that I believe Shedeur can do all those things that y'all both said, Beck is good at. Shedeur hasn't had the opportunity to. Because like you said, his O-line gave him nothing last year.
Yeah.
So I, fully believe that Sanders can manage a game for you and not turn the ball over, make the right decision.
That's fair.
But also make those flashy plays when he's needed,
Like put Shedeur on Georgia and see what happens.
Exactly.
That's
and
fair.
so I feel like that, you can't teach that. You can't teach that improv ability. You can't teach that, second nature, that instinct to make, just a crazy type of throw that maybe 4 other guys in college can make. And so, I'd like you said, put Shedeur on Georgia, and Georgia may start, passing the ball a lot more. And it's not Beck's fault, because, Beck plays within Georgia's offense, and Georgia's, as far as I'm a Georgia fan, have been since I moved to Georgia back in 2010. They have always ran the ball first. It's run the ball on first and second down, and then pass for 3rd and 5.
Right.
And it's right to the sticks. Every now and again, you'll get an explosive play, but that's what Georgia is: play defense, run the ball. And I don't know, when you get to the league, yes, I think Beck will still be good. He reminds me a lot of a JJ McCarthy kind of guy. But Shedeur can win you games because of his ability.
That's fair.
And meanwhile, you're not going to lose games, because of either of them.
That's why I would say a very good comparison to the NFL right now is I would say Carson Beck is like a Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
And Shedeur is like a Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To where
That's fair.
you don't know what Josh Allen is going to do. It could be really, really good, or it could be like, why did you do that?
Yeah.
And with Brock Purdy, you rarely see him make a mistake, and it's like, oh, wow, he never does that. So that's where I would compare the two. But I think, you put him in the right situation, right offense.
I don't think you can go wrong either way.
I don't think you go wrong either way. It just comes down to what you would rather have and kind of the aura or persona that position rubs off to the rest of your team.
It sucks that Deion said that, because I really do think that Shedeur would be the guy that a team that has less around them on offense would be looking at Shedeur.
Yeah.
But it seems like that's not even going to be an option, because Deion's going to be like, nah, No, he's not going there.
Now, I
Meanwhile,
would say
Beck would take, like a more complete team would take him. Like the Vikings took McCarthy.
Yeah. Well, and I would say too, like if I was the Giants, so say, I know, we say the Giants have the first pick.
They don't have a bad team around.
I'm saying
their main issue is quarterback right now.
I agree. So you throw him on that team with some of the receivers they have, with draft good on the O-line, and maybe get another running back in there.
Yeah.
I could see him elevating that whole team, or at least being like, okay, like if I was on defense, sweet, like let's play. Like we've got a guy who can make a play. Yeah, like we said, we might. Oh, another interception. Oh well. But going into it, we've got a chance to win because this guy could do something special.
Yeah.
So that I like you said, it just comes down to preference and what you want. So
yeah. Well, I mean, wait, what were you gonna say?
What does your playoff picture look like?
Oh, my playoff
college
picture?
Football this year.
So, obviously, Georgia's won. I think you're going to see a lot of SEC teams.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have an order, but off the top of my head, I do think Georgia makes it, Tennessee makes it, Ole Miss makes it, Bama makes it.
Okay. So you're putting Tennessee in.
Hey,
I do. Tennessee's quarterback.
I like Missouri.
Missouri.
I like Brady
good.
Cook.
Okay.
Their quarterback.
Okay.
I really like them, and he came back. He could have gone to the draft last year. Came back to try and prove himself.
I like it.
I really like Missouri just for their quarterback play because in college that's a huge part of. So I like them, but yeah, like you said, I wouldn't be surprised if there's 7 SEC teams.
Well, I mean, I've got mine.
Oh yeah, we asked Vanny as part of like his visit because he's probably the biggest on college football easily out of the three of us to make his college football playoff bracket. I know you've got it built. Just let us hear it. Let's see if you got any surprises.
Who are your conference winners?
My conference winners out of the SEC, Georgia.
Yeah.
Obviously. It's a machine.
Do you think anyone's going to be able to compete with them? And
possibly Texas, possibly Alabama.
Texas.
I mean, we'll see.
Yeah.
I really, they're scary.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see how they do without Brock Bowers because I think
it's a huge part of that offense.
That's a huge part of the offense where you have to put a man on this guy, stick a man on this guy, and then
they had to
everybody else gets to eat.
They had to cut Rara Thomas as well, like a huge receiver for them, big time.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So we'll see. And then number 2, Ohio State. State, I think they have a fairly easy schedule. I mean, Penn State looked really, really good this last weekend against
Michigan looked okay
against West Virginia.
Yeah.
Michigan, I don't think they're in.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think Michigan makes it in.
Really?
I got Ohio State, and then they're my Big Ten winner. And then number 3, Utah. I just think the Big 12, essentially a Big 12 weaker conference this year, in my opinion. I don't really see anybody being a threat besides the winner. Mm-hmm. And I think Utah will come out on top. And then we got number 4, Miami. Miami, dude, they did
the ACC
good. Winner.
Look really good.
All Coast Conference. I mean, they dominated. So I'm interested to see. Hopefully Miami can keep that going. And then, they in Florida, it's a really, really big deal if you're Miami and you can beat both Florida and you can beat Florida State. Mm-hmm. So we'll see what happens with that. I mean, they always do like a big rivalry with that. So, and then for my first round playoff games, this is now my first round playoff games. 1 through 4 gets a bye.
Yeah.
My 5 is Alabama playing against number 12, the group of 5, group of 6 champion Tulane.
Really?
And the reason that I picked Tulane is I think Tulane, they've got a really big game coming up next week. Okay. Even if they lose that, I still think that they can win out their schedule, win it, and I think by that time they will be ranked if they have one loss.
Who are they playing?
Who is Tulane playing? I will double check that. Yeah, check that for me. Yeah, and then keep going. So number 8, Notre Dame against number 9, Ole Miss. So I think Notre Dame hosts in South Bend for that. Notre Dame sneaks in, they get in just fine. 1, 2 losses, maybe. I think 1 loss and they're in. Penn State against Oklahoma.
That's gonna be.
I think Oklahoma will sneak in, so you're in College Station. Penn State, that'll be awesome.
I think it's pretty really cool that they're giving these
that they give them a home
game.
And then I've got Texas and Oregon. So I've got some really cool matchups. Nobody's playing each other from the same conference.
Yeah.
And then from there I've got number 5 Alabama against number 4 Miami, Number 8, Ole Miss against number 1, Georgia. Number 6, Penn State against 3, Utah. Number 7, Texas against 2, Ohio State. And then from there, I've got my Final Four looking like Georgia versus Alabama, a staple for the college football playoffs every year.
Yeah.
And then Ohio State versus Penn State. So I kind of have, my Big Ten section, and I have my SEC section, and then we've got Georgia and Ohio State in the championship.
So the top 2 conferences
and Georgia
stay
takes
on
it all.
top.
Yeah, the top 2 conferences. That's everything. Everybody else, you get one bid.
Okay.
But the Big Ten and the SEC is going to get a few more, but the Big Ten still deserves a few as well.
So Tulane.
Who does Tulane play?
So this week they play 18 Kansas State, but then the week after they play Oklahoma.
Yes.
So they got two very tough games.
Big tests. If they come out
So you
winning
think
one
they
of
win
those,
both of these?
if they can win one of them,
Okay.
I think
Win
that,
one
I
of
think
them
they
and
can
then
get
win
in.
their conference.
And then win their conference. I think that's enough for them to be the best.
Win one and
We'll
maybe
give them a
two.
chance to.
We'll give them a chance to be
Yeah.
a Group of 5 team, and who knows? I mean, they came out blazing this week.
Yeah.
So
Win one and maybe don't get blown out
Yep.
the other one.
Yeah.
and you'll be
Should
good to go.
Okay.
So yeah, that's my.
So then what
That's my look.
give us the list 1 through 12.
All right,
How's it
so
look?
let's see here. Number 1, Georgia, SEC champ, Big Ten champ, Ohio State. Number 2, and then number 3, Big 12 champ, Utah. Number 4, ACC champ, Miami. And then we've got 5, Alabama, 6, Penn State, 7, Texas, 8, Notre Dame. Number 9, Ole Miss. Number 10, Oregon, even though they scared me this weekend. Number 11, Oklahoma. And number 12, my G6 champ, Tulane.
Sounds like it's a pretty solid bracket, honestly.
As
So-
we know, stuff could change.
Oh, it's
like
gonna
that.
change.
It always
But-
changes.
but it's fun. It was fun to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and
Yeah.
it'll be really fun. Like at the end of the year, like everybody can fill out a bracket, like what we do
Yeah.
for March Madness.
Yeah.
Like that's gonna be
Yeah.
really cool to do with our friends. Like
Yeah.
that'll be neat.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Well, and
So-
it's something too that I think, like you kind of said, where at the end of the day, it's still going to be SEC versus Big Ten or
Yeah.
SEC versus SEC.
You can make the bracket as big as you want. It's going to be the top
I
2.
agree, but like we said, also it's going to give teams
More
hope,
incentive.
more incentive to continue
Yeah.
to play through the year and go. No, let's get into the playoffs. Let's
Yeah.
try to. So
Like
I
if
think that's
Kentucky
good.
snuck in as an 11,
That'd be crazy.
I mean that would
Yeah,
be.
if you would have
They've
put
got
Kentucky
the-
in,
That's
you would
everything-
hear it.
Oh, I
Like
would definitely hear it.
Like we have heard on.
but that's fine. But if Kentucky snuck in as 11, which I don't think is quote unquote impossible.
Yeah, it's not.
I think
When
it's
you
hard.
go out
They-
and
they
win
have
some
the
games, that you,
competition to
But
do
like
it.
they have
Absolutely.
the teams to beat to do it.
yes,
Yeah.
And I would love it. But like that would be the best thing in my entire career, in my entire fandom as a Kentucky fan. Like that would just be. And we got Mark Pope for basketball this year. It'd be crazy. I mean, it'd be wild. So
that's funny. That's
But
funny.
I know NFL is returning this week. We
Yes.
have finally NFL games starting Thursday
Sweet.
and Friday. We've got
yeah,
a game Friday
what
too.
in Brazil, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, the
we
Friday
gotta-
games
Playing
in
over there?
Brazil.
The
It's
Eagles and the Packers.
Eagles, Packers are Brazil Friday night.
Yeah, Friday at like 8:30, 7:30.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I know we're gonna have our second episode this week, really covering the full NFL week one as a whole.
We're gonna do our award winners.
We're gonna do
predictions
we're
as
gonna
well.
do that and talk about the whole week,
The Hard Knocks finale.
Hard Knocks finale as well. But for now, for first game Thursday night, I think I'm gonna have. It's hard not to pick the Chiefs when they're gonna be doing
Yeah.
the banner ceremony, the
right.
Super Bowl.
Well, especially after what happened last year, because they were doing that last year
Yeah.
as well, and then the Lions
Lions
show up,
came in,
like,
which is
oh.
a good argument. And the Ravens will be good.
Yeah, they're
Derrick
gonna be
Henry, they're going to be
very
able to
good.
run the ball. That
Yeah.
defense is still going to be good. But you don't bet against Patrick Mahomes. So
I learned that the hard way.
I'm going to
Yeah.
say Patrick Mahomes takes it in their
What
home
do you
opener.
think,
So
Vanny?
I'm gonna have to rock with the. I gotta go different, right? Like
Different?
I've got to
You're gonna
go.
be Ravens?
I've got to go with the Baltimore Ravens. You know,
I like it.
I'm a. I guess I'd like to see that. You got new running back, new quarterback. You
Derrick
can control
Henry
the
and
pace
Lamar
of the game
Jackson
that
in
way.
backfield.
And
Wow.
so I obviously I'm a fantasy guy, so
Yeah.
hopefully my fantasy players play well if I have them that night.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd like to see Baltimore pull it out more for the AFC North.
See, I don't know who's going to win this game, and it's hard for me to say that the Chiefs aren't going to win just because, solely on what happened last year.
Right.
It would make them sick to have it happen 2 years,
2 years
in a row.
back to
Yeah.
back.
Celebrating
or
celebrating
they
a
might
Super
win
Bowl
because
win,
look
and
what
then
had happened. They won the Super Bowl,
That's
lost, and
true.
win another Super Bowl. So
Let's
maybe
lose this one again
yeah.
and then see them later
Yeah,
in
exactly.
the playoffs and absolutely whoop
Exactly.
them.
I
Yeah.
think it's going to be a great game, though. Two great teams. They did a perfect job of putting the Chiefs, obviously, because they have the first game
gonna
because
be
they won the Super
fun.
Bowl, but matching them up with the Ravens to where they beat them in the playoffs last year in Baltimore when the Ravens were supposed to win, didn't. Now they're going to Kansas City, so I think it's going to be a great game. And like you said, fantasy football.
Yeah.
I know we got all of our drafts this week.
Yep.
Yeah, we have one of ours
We've
tonight.
got one
I know
tonight.
Chris is ready.
Yeah.
You ready, Chris?
So, and then we got a couple more the rest of the week, but I cannot wait. Football is back. This is the best. I can't remember what I was doing. We got back from golfing, and we were sitting down, like, eating pizza, and I looked
There was football
I
on the
looked at Dad and
screen, dude.
Vanny, and I was like, this is life.
Yeah, it's
I'm
the best
eating
time of the year.
pizza, watching football right now.
It's seriously, it is the best time of the year. Football's back.
finally
And
back.
I get involved in some high school football back home too. I usually go to some high school games. I got to watch Kirk Herbstreit's son play. So like I like going out watching the guys that are gonna play on Saturdays on Friday nights.
Well, and it's also cool because a lot
So-
of the games are on TV now.
yeah,
Like
so
some of the
I
big
stay
games,
very
so-
involved with football as a whole. Like
Yeah.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, football's on the TV. The wife, she's like,
they could suck it up. They could suck it
she'll
up.
be all right. So
So I've got a little challenge I want to issue Dawson for the season because I'm very confident in my football knowledge and who I think will win games.
Apparently not. The internet doesn't think so. The internet
Yeah, apparently
thinks
not.
Yeah.
So we started off, we're taking the Chiefs, both of us, but throughout the course of the year, at the end of the year, let's take a tally. We'll do this every week. Pick the primetime winners of the Thursday night game, Friday or Saturday if they're playing, and then the Sunday night and Monday night.
Okay. How about so let's just do every primetime game.
Every
'Cause I know
primetime
there's a
game.
lot like we'll do like the games on
Thanksgiving,
Christmas.
Yep,
every
Thanksgiving.
primetime game. I like that.
We will take a tally of everything we got right and wrong, and whoever has less at the end, we'll come up with a little challenge or a punishment to do.
Should we?
And if we
should
tie,
we let
we
the
both have to do it.
viewers
We should
decide
the
that,
punishment?
or are they gonna do
Get in
something?
our comment section and give us some punishments, some
Keep
challenges.
them like a good punishment, not like go jump off a bridge or
and
something.
then what are the
like that.
odds? Like, can I bet on this or like what's Vegas
You
setting
can
this
take
at?
your pick
Yeah, dude.
if you
We'll do,
want.
like, kinda like a
Who do
Deadpool
you think
almost.
will come out on top at the end?
I
of the
gotta,
year?
my old roommate buddy pal. I'm
I'm
proud
proud
of you.
He gave that answer.
I'm fine
But
with being the underdog.
I think
That's
we got
fine with
Dylan.
me.
Oh, okay.
Look at that.
guy. You think you know a guy. You think you know a guy. That's funny. No, I think that'll be fun because I know it's kind of what we did a little bit last. Yeah, keep track of it. Yeah, cool.
All right, so we'll see y'all in January when the season ends.
Yeah, we'll come up with
beautiful.
something.
I gotta keep tabs on that.
Yeah, well, we'll probably maybe we could write it up on the whiteboard and have a list the whole season.
we could do
Just
that.
Keep it.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm down. Comments. Come up with something realistic, not something crazy.
Let us hear some good ones. Get creative.
Like get creative, but have it be something that would be maybe funny to film, but also keep it within reason. So we're not getting arrested.
Don't
or
make my
something.
buddy die.
Yeah, or that too. So, well, I think is going to wrap up this episode.
Yep.
Thank you again, Vanny, for coming on.
It's been a pleasure.
Oh,
sir.
it's been
Thanks
such
for
a
coming
pleasure.
down.
Come down.
college football.
Hopefully I'll be
knowledge,
back
so-
soon.
Oh,
Yes, sir.
100%.
Hopefully I'll be
maybe
back
not
soon.
in person, maybe
Yeah.
over
Maybe
Zoom,
over
something.
Yeah.
But we will definitely be asking for your college takes of as the season goes on of rankings and stuff
I'm
like
excited.
that.
I'm
So
really
we
excited.
appreciate that. But other than that, don't forget social media, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. It's really going to start to get going now that 2
Subscribe to the
episodes a
channel.
week on the YouTube and all the clips coming out, 2 episodes, that's gonna be great. So
ready to go.
NFL season, football's back, college football's back. Can't wait. It's going to be awesome. And now that we've got this little challenge going, I'm going to have to spend some more time doing
your research,
doing
sir.
some research on some of these games. So, but other than that, thank you so much. That is episode 4 of I-75 Live.
Episode
Five.
We're
Sorry.
moving quick.
He's losing
Quick.
count.
Sorry.
He needs to put tallies up there.
Thank you again for watching, and we will see you guys next time.
Sir.
See you.
It's been real, guys.